Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to episode 200 of Gun Guy Radio. This is a podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Jake Challand, and this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. And special guest, co-host, main host, Ryan Machad is here with me from Handgun Radio. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Going great. And, it's been a while since we've gotten together. So, what's up with you? I heard you just had a baby?
Yes, we did. Little Connor Joseph came into this world a week from yesterday.
Wow, and that's your first?
That is our first, my wife Sarah and I.
Wow. That's, so how is it being a first-time dad?
It is tiring and a whole bunch of new experiences, that's for sure.
Yeah. I saw you already trying to get this kid converted to be a gun guy.
He was, oh, you mean this morning? Yeah, I was watching C&R Arsenal's new episode on the Tank Go Air, and he was watching it with me. The minute he started hearing the Othias talking, he was looking right at it, so I held it up, and I was like, hey, what do you think? And my wife snapped a picture of it.
Well, very cool. So I guess we're going to do this week in review segment here. I don't know. I guess your week is all baby, right?
It's basically been all baby. I got a 1022 that I've got over here that I went to use for some pest control a few months back, and someone basically, they had some problems out in their backyard, and I'm trying to use it, and it wouldn't cycle. It just kept going, jamming on me, and the cases were sticking in the chamber. And so I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, that thing's pretty dirty. And I don't think I've cleaned it ever since I bought it like 6 years ago. So that's probably what I'll be doing here when I get some time soon.
So have you thought about first gun for him? For how old are you going to wait till you take him shooting? Have you thought about all this?
Well, I was probably 10 years old when I fired my first gun, but with a 22, I think that might be a little bit better. So I think I'll probably start him off maybe a 22 pistol, maybe a 22 rifle.
What was your first gun that you shot?
My first gun was a Model 66 357 Magnum.
Oh, and that's why you're forever Revolver fan. Good grief.
That's right.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm getting ready to take my son out shooting for the first time. Bought him a little 22 Cricket, and getting ready to take my 6-year-old out to the range here as soon as it warms up enough and I get some free time. So
yeah, those Cricket 22s are really nice, especially because they're only single shot.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Amazon helps make this episode possible, so check out our Amazon affiliate link, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon, or check out the Amazon banners at firearmsradio.tv. In case you're trying to get to the old Gun Guy Radio website, that will redirect to the new firearmsradio.tv website. All the podcast sites have combined into one, so check that out. I guess I skipped my week in review. As far as guns go, I don't think I've done anything firearm related. I was near the range today, and I had the itch to go shooting. In fact, the neighbor out there sounded like he set off a howitzer or something, something super loud. And he's like, at least a half mile away, maybe farther. Sounded like he was right next to me, so that made me a little jealous, whatever he was out shooting. But it started to warm up here in northern Illinois, and so I definitely need to get some more range time in. I don't know, what's weather been like up in Maine, Ryan?
We've actually had a pretty very weird winter. We've barely had any snow down where I am, and we're normally getting, last year we got like 15, 16 inches of snow in a 3 or 4 day period.
Wow.
So it's been pretty good. We've had a really bad mud season, but it's been pretty good for going out and shooting. Like, you just got to wait a few days after a real heavy rain, or else you're going to be sinking down in the grass and making tracks.
Well, Patriot Patch Company helps make this episode possible. I guess that's what I've been doing a lot. I was working on Patriot Patch Company. Full disclosure, that is my company, but it also helps the Firearms Radio Network out, and we have some cool new patches out. We got a new 1911 patch out, new rock, paper, scissors, buckshot patch out. Have a revolver T-shirt out. That would probably interest you, Ryan. I actually sent you one today. It's in the mail.
Oh, excellent.
So
I'm wearing the gun guy shirt right now. I don't know if my camera's still frozen or not, but
yeah, your camera's all messed up. So maybe try turning it on and off there in the Hangout. But yeah, patriotpatch.co. You can also sign up for an email newsletter where you can get a chance to win a patch a month. I'm currently sending several people one patch every month because they won just by signing up for our email newsletter at patriotpatch.co.
Do you shop on Amazon? How about your spouse? Does your mom? Does your company? Why not use the Firearms Radio Network's Amazon affiliate link next time you shop Amazon? Bookmark firearmsradio.tv/Amazon or click through the Amazon link in the right-hand corner of firearmsradio.tv. Get it? Got it? Amazon it.
Well, this is our big episode number 200. I don't know when I first started this, if I ever imagined that we'd go to episode 200. I think I did. I think I aspired to that after doing the show a while, but the very first episode, I'm not sure I ever dreamed that we get to episode 200. That was back in March of 2012. So I guess we're 4 years into the show, just over 4 years into the show.
I remember a long time ago listening to the show, and it was just you, Hank, Steve, bunch of people hanging out. That was that was. I really liked the roundtables.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was so I really got hardcore into firearms by listening to gun podcasts. Years ago, there was just a handful, probably not even a handful of gun podcasts, years ago when I started listening, and, I latched onto a couple, and it really got me thinking about buying guns, about shooting, and it really taught me a lot of, the proper terminology, proper techniques, proper ways to, approach, range sessions and stuff like that. It taught me a lot of the basics, cause I've been into guns for a while, but just listening, to weekly episodes of a few different podcasts I listened to back then really kind of sparked my interest in firearms that much more. And I really became, I view that as a time when I really became a gun guy. And, that's all I could think about. That's all. I couldn't get enough of the gun podcasts that were few and far between back then. Back then I was working for the post office, and I was mowing lawns for my own business, lawn care service, mowing lawns and plowing. And that's what I listen to all the time were podcasts, just, 12, 16 hours a day, nothing but podcasts. And a lot of those are gun podcasts. So that's kind of what inspired me to launch launch Gun Guy Radio after I, really kind of dove into it with, mainly my buddy Zach that started it with me, Zach Carlson. He's currently works for Lone Wolf Distributors, and me and him, we went to high school together, and we shot guns together, and we listened to podcasts, a lot of the same podcasts actually. So we, had all the same interests. So it was kind of a natural. And I had started listening to the podcast Answer Man way back then, and he's a guy that teaches people how to podcast, and I don't even know why I started listening to that, but that inspired me to start my own show, being Gun Guy Radio, and it just kind of took off from there. And I guess that's the show that you found, Ryan. Do you remember when you found this show?
I think I found Gun Guy Radio first. I'm trying to remember what episode I listened to, because I was working as a janitor, and I'm listening to podcasts. And the funny thing is, I try to listen to podcasts about other subjects like guitars, because I'm a guitar player, and I don't find them interesting. I don't know why. It's only like gun podcasts and like political talk radio that I really can listen to for any length of time.
Well, and that's where I started, was political talk radio on terrestrial radio, and then I started consuming it on podcasts because I found personalities I liked better, and I found podcasts were so much easier to consume, and that just kind of led me looking for gun stuff one day. And I think that's how a lot of people find this show and the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network, is they start, they maybe don't start with gun podcasts, but they're like, I wonder if there's something on here about guns or about AR-15s or about Glocks, and I think that's how a lot of people find it, which is pretty cool.
But yeah, I think that was what I started with, was Gun Guy.
Yeah, I think we did about a year of Gun Guy Radio before we launched the network. Because we started it, I guess I'm skipping ahead on the show notes here a little bit. We'll get back into later about what I've been up to the last year, because I've been self-employed here for just over a year now. But we'll get into that a little bit after, about the start of Gun Guy Radio. Since this is episode 200, I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't listened all the way back. And you're right, Ryan. It started out with just buddies of mine: Zach, Mike, Hank, Steve, Greg, a few others that we just started. Hey, let's talk about shotguns this week. Let's talk about AR-15s this week. And so it just kind of evolved from there. And
I think the thing that got me was the Squib Show. That was what I downloaded, and I'm kind of reminded of that by listening to This Week in Guns with Ebbs, and it's freaking Russian Ebbs' voice.
Yeah, the Squib Show was something we didn't do too many. I think we did just over a dozen of them, and that was an after show. It was unfiltered. It was raunchy, and it was terrible.
Some of the funniest stuff I've heard in my life.
It was awful. It was really bad. And Ryan still listens to him. But
I am unashamed.
But yeah, that was kind of just the after show, unfilteredness. And funny enough, if you're listening to This Week in Guns and you pledge $10 an episode for our Patreon campaign, shameless plug, you can actually hang out with us for an after show a couple times a month. And we just had our first This Week in Guns hangout after the show, and I think Ebbs stayed up with the two listeners until like 3 a.m.
You really got to record those and put those up as like a bonus episode.
I don't even know. I don't even want to know what they talked about after I left. I think I left shortly after midnight, and they talked till 3 a.m. So,
oh man,
you can only imagine. So, anyways, yeah. So I think we did about 8 months of Gun Guy Radio, maybe 10 months. We started in March, and I think I started launching the network around Christmas time that year. I think that was the same year Sandy Hook happened, because I think we launched This Week in Guns just a week or two after that happened. So I think a lot of the gun podcasts kind of exploded right around that time.
Well, and that was you had the rise of, like, you had smartphones before, but people had Blackberries and people had this, that, and the other thing. And that was when you really started seeing, like, you're either Apple or Android, and then you started seeing a lot of the apps coming in, and a lot more people saying, hey, even people who aren't, like, tech savvy, who are just like, oh, I had to get this damn iPhone because they wouldn't let me keep my flip phone or whatever. And then they realize, oh, I can listen to radio on this. More and more people just realizing, hey, this is more useful than just being a phone.
Well, I think you're right. That was kind of also the tipping point time when people really started adopting the iPhone, and also podcasts started spreading.
I'll be honest, I'd never heard of a podcast before probably like 2010, and I never listened to them until at least 2012.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was listening to them probably before that, but I don't think, I used to download them manually, put them on MP3 player, like an old, like, Creative Zen MP3 player. And yeah, I think 2012 was somewhere around there, was that tipping point where you could just click a few things on your phone and be like, oh yeah, here's a new podcast. So I think we started the Firearms Radio Network with This Week in Guns and the AR-15. The AR-15 podcast, I think, were our first two. Well, I take that back. What we started doing on Gun Guy Radio was we started the Top Shot fan podcast, which
I forgot about that.
Some of you probably never even saw that, but there was 5 seasons of this TV show on the History Channel called Top Shot, and it was a shooting competition type show. And we did fan episodes of that, and then we also did the Fat to Fit show. I think those two shows actually preceded This Week in Guns and AR-15 podcast, because they lived within Gun Guy Radio at the time. And so I got to thinking, because I started listening to a lot of tech podcasts at that time on, like, the 5x5 network and the Twit network. And I was like, at that time, I think, there's just the Gun Rights Radio Network. The Gun Rights Radio Network was the only gun-related podcast network.
Right.
And, I saw what 5x5 was doing. I really liked a lot of what they were doing. So I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather try to go that direction with things and maybe build my own network. Cause up till then, I helped, it's funny I'm doing Patriot Patch now and t-shirts, cause back when the Gun Rights Radio Network was around, I helped with t-shirts on that. I actually just I had 2, Gun Rights Radio Network t-shirts in my closet still that, really cool design done by Ryan Cross, but I actually gave those to Goodwill a couple weeks ago. Cause that's no longer around. I'm like, man, that's a cool design, but it really doesn't mean anything anymore. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of history there that, the Firearms Radio Network, just started from Gun Guy Radio. It was pretty interesting, how I had so many people, and really the reason it started, it wasn't me, it was because there were so many people that were like, hey, why don't you do a show on this? Why don't you do a show on AR-15? Why don't you do a show
Why don't you do a show on classic handguns, man? Come on.
Yeah, why don't you do a show on handguns? Why don't you do a show on competitive rifle? Why don't you do a show on, and so on? And that's how a lot of the Firearms Radio Network shows started, because I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. When can you start your first episode?
I think that's kind of familiar.
And so, because now we have the AK-47 radio show, which is exactly how that show started. I said, this guy had emailed me several times, James Smith over there. He's like, hey, why don't you have an AK-47 radio show? And the last time he emailed me, I'm like, we're not going to have one unless you start one. So I think it's time you start one. And then AR-15 podcast came along, I think, because I think I was thinking about launching it, but I didn't have the expertise. And Steve, that was a regular on Gun Guy Radio, was like, hey, I got this friend Reed that he's kind of crazy about AR-15s. He's also a lawyer, which is kind of sketchy. And so we started AR-15 podcast, just, never met each other, never really done anything together, but that worked out really well. And competitive rifle, which has gone through a transition of hosts, God and Guns, which has also gone through a transition of main hosts, Gun Guy Radio, which I guess the same can be said. Ryan, you took the helm here for a while, and Gun and Gear Review, which has also changed. So a lot of these shows have been around a while, but have changed. But are still here. Guns of Hollywood is pretty much the same. Handgun Radio is pretty much the same. Off-Road Podcast took, a host change there. And then Reloading Podcast, I guess that's pretty much the same. This Week in Guns took me a long time to hit my stride with This Week in Guns. I feel like I had at least a year's worth of episodes, 60 episodes or something, where I mean, they weren't all bad, but there were some bad episodes in there.
I feel like This Week in Guns is the show that I want to listen to when I want to get information, but I want to just laugh and just enjoy like everything that's being said. Like, it's hilarious, I think, when Ebbs and everybody else gets off on a tangent and like, you're all right, guys, all right, I can hear you coming in, but you let it go long enough that it's funny and it's good listening.
Well, and it took me a while to find the right chemistry there with all the hosts. And I think, for the last year now, we've kind of nailed that down where we have pretty good chemistry there, a pretty good set of hosts that we rotate through.
Right.
Really great guys. But man, before I had all of them on, there was a good year there at first when I tried different stuff and like, so some stuff just did not work and I probably shouldn't have tried, but yeah, This Week in Guns, that's a lot of fun. And if, it's just commentary, and we don't claim to be like the authority on the news, but we try our best to share.
Yeah, but nowadays everything's opinion. So I mean, it's fun to listen to.
And that's what it is. It's pure opinion, but it covers the latest news.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it entertaining. Because if you're just like serious, like this is the 5 o'clock news, blah, 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 I don't think I could listen to that or do that. And then we have great third party shows like We Like Shooting, which that I think Savage over there, he was like the facilitator in getting We Like Shooting, because they were already doing like a YouTube Hangout live show. They're already doing their show, but they weren't doing it in podcast form, I don't think. And Savage, he was a listener of the network, and he was trying to convince me to get them to come on. And he convinced me. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I think he did all that before even talking to Sean. And he was like, oh, yeah, by the way, we're on the Firearms Radio Network now.
It's funny because, like, Savage is one of my closest friends on the network. Like, I'm texting him pretty much all the time.
But Sean and Savage and, all those guys and gals that We Like Shooting, just great show to have on the network. A little bit on the raunchy side, but man, is that a fun, entertaining show. And then we
gotta have diversity.
Right. Then another third party show is Practically Tactical, which Nick has, started off as handgun newbie, but he's not a newbie anymore. And he's really taken that show, especially with his new co-host, he's really taken that show to the next level. That is an excellent, top of line, educational show. And it's pretty funny too.
I love making fun of him when I'm like, oh, come on, man, use a wheel gun. And he had me on for an episode about wheel guns, but I like it. I see he has all these new guns, and he's trying out new stuff. I see he had a nice 1911 from Springfield the other day. So.
Yeah, good stuff. And yeah, that's I think that's all the shows I covered that are currently on the network, how it evolved out of Gun Guy Radio. And we have had some shows go away. We have some shows that are archived, like Fat to Fit is archived, Gun Girl Radio is archived, Precision Rifle is archived, and Tactical Paradise is archived. And I loved all those shows, but it just came to a point where the host just couldn't, for one reason or another, keep doing it. But you guys can listen to all the back episodes and everything. If they ever decide to start back up again, that's totally a possibility too. So, but yeah, probably off track here talking about all the Firearms Radio Network stuff.
It's good history, people, because you got to remember, some people may not have come in to the network before like episode 100.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they still could be like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?"
But yeah, so we've seen a lot of changes within Gun Guy Radio. Like you said, it started with just buddies talking, and then I at one point I changed it to more of topical discussions where I still had those guys come in, and then I completely changed it to doing CEO interviews, firearms industry insider interviews, which those were really fun too. I mean, it had some really big names on at the time, and it was really hard to do that though, because getting CEOs and these industry leaders, people like R. Lee Ermey or
how nerve-wracking is it to have somebody that you're interviewing?
Or Jesse James. Yeah, someone that can totally beat me up. But, no, I mean, these guys are going, a million miles a minute. I mean, R. Lee Ermey, he's like, he's getting up there in his years, but man, he's not that much younger than my grandfather, but yet he's going at it like a mad dog. I mean, he's just a million miles a minute, no sign of slowing down, which is awesome. But for a podcaster, for guys like us, trying to get these guys scheduled for an interview, especially back then when I was working a day job and part-time job and stuff, it was so hard to get guys like those on the show. It was so worth it, but it was so hard. It was so hard. And
I remember the Joe Mantegna interview I did, and it was like, you have a phone number you need to call between the hours of 9 and 9:30, and you get this much time.
Right.
Like, it was good to talk to him. Like, it was a good conversation, but it was like trying to schedule it. It was like, I swear to God, I won't give out your number. I promise.
Well, that's the thing a lot of people don't realize is you never deal with a lot of these people in person. You're always dealing with their agent, their manager, and it's like real show business, quote unquote, and it can be frustrating. So I kind of got burned out doing the CEO interviews just because it was so hard. And I had a lot of no shows too. I had one author that 2 separate times, like a year apart, I had him locked in for an interview, and he was in a no show both times. And he was one of my favorite authors. I never had him on the show, and I was so disappointed. And I can't even describe. I mean, just so like almost heartbroken. I'm like, this guy, I'm such a big fan, and he just totally, committed, but yet blew me off twice. And I had that happen with other CEOs and other people in the industry too. And so that kind of burned me out at doing those CEO interviews and Firearms Insider interviews because, it's rough. You put yourself out there, and then I don't know. So
It is.
So then Ryan, it came a point where I was transitioning on my day job, and I called upon you to help me out here on Gun Guy Radio. And so for, the last year or so, more than a year, actually, you've been, really taking the helm here and, putting out great content, for Gun Guy Radio while I, transitioned on my day job and kind of, took a little break from Gun Guy Radio, which was awesome to be able to have that opportunity to sit back and listen to some shows that I'm not having to create, but you are.
Well, I'm trying to go back here. I've kind of forgotten what episode I started on with Gun Guy. I'm pretty sure I'm scrolling back here. Oh man, Peter Palma. I remember that. Yeah, I think episode like 155, 154. I think 155 was when I started.
Okay.
And it was, we kind of took a more decidedly historical bent and did World War II weapons of the Eastern Front.
Yeah, you had some really good guests on with those historical episodes, and someday I could see us launching another show on the network. Kind of in that same vein. I could see that being a pretty entertaining show.
I know, like, some of my favorite guests. I've had Nathaniel F. from the Firearms blog. I had Othias from CN Arsenal. Daniel Waters, one of the more popular episodes I've gotten a lot of emails about, has been the one we did about the history of the Army pistol trials, basically when they decided, way back when, we need to change out the 1911 and switch to the Beretta.
Yeah. Just really interesting stuff you don't really hear anywhere else in the podcast world.
It was definitely fun. Got to talk about a bunch of stuff I didn't know about, talk to a bunch of people. I mean, it's like I tell everybody, it's great because I get to talk to people that I used to, read about in magazines. I'd read their articles and stuff, and now like they consider me like colleagues, and it's really cool to be able to like share that and understand and learn new things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we're into the part where we're going to talk about where we're going with Gun Guy Radio, what's changing up, and the weekly format is going to return. I don't know, have you? I haven't noticed. Do you still say this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk? I guess we should have been saying it.
I think I do, but yeah, I don't think I changed that part out.
So this will return to a weekly show. I guess you have one more episode to release, Ryan, with, was it someone from the Firearm blog you said?
Yeah, it was with Nathaniel F. I believe we're going to be talking about intermediate cartridges, sort of like when there was that transition from the 308 and NATO, all that drama when the M14 was adopted. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, you're telling me about that. So that'll be a bonus episode. That'll actually be like episode 200-1, something like that. But then we're going to reboot Gun Guy Radio, and I'm going to kind of take over the helm here again, and Ryan is going to start releasing weekly episodes, Handgun Radio, and go over back to Handgun Radio, take care of your baby over there, Ryan, which I really miss the weekly episodes of HGR.
I got my co-host now, so and of course Weird Beard will be coming back. Right now he's down on vacation in Florida, so we did not record this week, but we will be coming back. I think there's going to be an episode releasing either tomorrow or the next day. So
cool, yeah, good stuff. And so probably going to live shows possibly every Monday night. And we're looking at changing up the format where be a little more of a round table like it was in the beginning, where I'll have great guests on every week, and we're gonna hit on some topics though. We're gonna do series of topics. We're gonna do some episodes are gonna be geared towards beginners because I know we have a lot of newer gun guys tuning in, especially lately. So, and in the last, 2 years or so, we've had a lot of new people coming into the industry too. So, we're going to cover a lot of topics that I think we need to revisit. We're going to cover a lot of new topics, cover a lot of things maybe from a slightly different perspective. But most of all, have a lot of fun doing it in a live format. Somewhat similar to This Week in Guns, but not as long. It's going to be shorter than that. But it's going to allow people to tune in live, and we may even do an after show thing, because I'm really looking to revamp this and making, this something that, can, be entertaining to the seasoned gun guy, but also provide a lot of valuable information to people just tuning in, because there's not very many places, unless you search around on the web, search forums and stuff, where you can find info when you're a new guy. And the roundtable format is great, because that was what originally got me in there, and it's cool to hear a discussion about current events, blah blah blah. But if you've got two people who are sitting around a table talking like, yeah, and this is what's going on, and welcome to this, and it's boring. But when you hear stuff like Ebbs and John Patton and everybody kind of joking around and talking about stuff and cracking jokes, you're going to listen, but you're also going to get that info that you want. Right. And one of my goals here is to create something that's entertaining, but also has quality content that lasts the lifetime of the podcast, where people years from now can tune into these episodes and search around iTunes for some of it may be simple stuff like hey, I want to buy my first gun, or I'm thinking about shotguns for defense. I'm thinking about teaching my kid how to shoot. I'm looking at maybe, buying a budget 22 just to plink around, or maybe I'm looking at getting into black powder, or, so we're looking to cover just, a wide spectrum of topics this year. I have the whole year planned out, and looking at everything from concealed carry to building your own gun to do-it-yourself projects to just having fun. Thinking of some new ways to have fun on the range safely, and also doing some specials, bringing back our Halloween special. And stuff like that.
Well, the best part is you can cite the old episodes in the new one. So if you're like, hey, go back and listen to this episode if you want to check out more about this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be a great, 2016 is going to be a great year for Gun Guy Radio, a great revamp. And Ryan, I don't know if you've mentioned, but you actually changed your work schedule. You used to work nights, and you're going to be working days.
Yep.
So it looks like you may also be able to participate in some of these hangouts and stuff, which is great.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there as long as I can.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're going with the show, and we're looking at revamping the Patreon. I haven't even talked about the Patreon in a long time, but I really want to thank everyone that supports Gun Guy Radio through the Patreon program. It's where you pledge your support at little as $1 an episode, just to, help the show out. And so I'm looking to revamp that, changing up the perks and stuff. Patreon.com/gun. And I guess that's one thing I really learned, over the last 4 years podcasting, is that there's no money. There's no money in podcasts. At least gun podcasts, there's no money in it. Everyone that shops with our Amazon affiliate link, that's like the main reason the Firearms Radio Network is here right now, is because people shop with the Amazon and Brownells affiliate links. And that's really like the big, and also the Patreon programs. Those two things right there, shopping the affiliate links, pledging your support with Patreon. that's the only reason we're on air.
Right.
Which I'm super grateful. But there's just, because I had, back when I started the network, I'm like, if I can just get people to advertise, or if we could do a membership, and people give it as little as $1 an episode, and stuff like that. I'm like, maybe I could do this for a living. Maybe this could be my job. And 4 years later, no, it really doesn't work like that. We have a pretty niche audience. I mean, there's networks like the 5x5 network and the Twit network, the technology and nerdy type networks. They have such a giant listenership and following that they can do stuff like that pretty successful. But we still have a pretty niche audience here, pretty unique. And so, we've had over 8 million downloads, and tens of thousands of listeners, and possibly much more than that. And even though we've had all that, the revenue side of things doesn't reflect that at all. Which is why I've been, we skipped a section of what I've been up to, because I've been absent from Gun Guy Radio. I just hit the 1 year mark of being self-employed here just less than 2 weeks ago, where I've been working my Amazon business, mainly selling liquidation items on Amazon, and that's been paying the bills. And I've also been working really, really, really hard on Patriot Patch Company. Ryan and I have been just hammering away at releasing as many new products as we can. And I think we have over like 30 patches now, and over a dozen shirts. And we started that last, I think it was May or June last year. So we're going to be coming up on the 1 year mark of Patriot Patch Company, and we're still just pouring everything back into it, all our time and money, and more money than it's even making into it, because it's really going to turn into something. And I'm really grateful for all the listeners that have shopped Patriot Patch Company, and that has really made doing all these shows and stuff over the last 4 years has really blown me away at how many listeners have come out of the woodwork to support Patriot Patch Company, which is pretty awesome. And so we're really looking at building that into a big pro Second Amendment brand. We're unashamedly pro Second Amendment, and we'll always be, and building that into a great apparel company. And also been working on a new business, Gun Guy Gear, where we have fasteners for guys that are making their own holsters, just hobbyists, do-it-yourselfers, guys are like, hey, I think I want to try making my own holster and stuff like that, or making my own nylon belt. And we have some, not all the components, but we service some of the main components for do-it-yourselfers doing stuff like that. And that company is really, really young. I don't even have the website built out yet, but been selling a lot through Amazon for it. But I'm looking at getting back into podcasting more for Gun Guy Radio, and building out a library of shows here over the next year that can really hopefully serve this Second Amendment community well.
It's just podcasting is where you have a lot of information. And, it used to be like when I was a kid, I used to have to read books and read all this other stuff. And books are still important, but, podcasting, it's like you can just play it. You can be cooking. Like what I'll do a lot of the time is I'll be cooking supper and I'll have the podcast playing while I'm cooking. And, we are in the days of multitasking. Mm-hmm. In any way that you can help people learn and get the things they need done while they're doing something else is always going to be a winner.
Well, yeah. And what's funny is now that I don't have my dreaded day job, and that routine, I find myself, I don't really have time to listen to podcasts like I used to. Having a repetitive job like I had really lent a lot of time to listen to podcasts. Now I really struggle. I used to listen. There was one time when I listened to every show on the Firearms Radio Network, and I can't even imagine how I could do that now.
Yeah, it definitely changes.
Because I have like one show that I say I don't miss an episode, but like I'll have to, even though it's only a weekly show, I'll have to catch up and listen to a couple shows in a week, because even that is tough, and that's not even a gun show. That's a business. That's a business entrepreneurial show, and so it's kind of funny how your tastes change over the years. And I mean, maybe it's because I've been doing stuff I've been doing This Week in Guns for, I think we're doing episode 160. So I've been doing that 160 weeks, and I think after a while, whatever it is, whether it's guns or cars or guitars or whatever it is, if you get into it so far, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to listen to a podcast about that. I mean, that's what I do all day long. I know that kind of became the case for Zach, my original host here on Gun Guy Radio. Is he started working in the firearms industry. I think he kind of got
a little bit burnt out.
A little burnt out on just like, this is all I do all day long, every day. And, but I think that happened to me too, a little bit, but,
we're glad you're back in the saddle here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to changing things up, making it a kind of a throwback, because I've had more listeners request us do these throwback episodes than any other type of episode. So I'm excited to give the listeners what they want and to actually be doing a format that I really enjoy doing, because it's just great. It's great to get on, talk with my friends about guns, and looking forward to it a lot. Well, I guess that I don't know if you don't have any more questions, Ryan, or anything to comment on. I guess that kind of brings us on the main topic.
I'm looking forward to everything coming up.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7-inning stretch time. We invite you to join in singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Patches, get your patches here. Patriot Patch Company has all your favorite flavors. Tactical, Western, sci-fi, pop culture, hot and ready. Don't forget to wash it down with a Pro Gun Custom Screen Printed t-shirt. Available in sizes medium to 5XL. They're great for any occasion. Patches, get your patches at patriotpatch.co.
Gun Guy Radio says thank you and proudly displays artwork and graphics designed by Ryan Cross of Hunter of Design. HunterofDesign.com.
Quick announcement here. We have a machine gun shoot coming up here in Monroeton, PA, Pennsylvania, April 30th to May 1st. StoneMountainMachineGun.com for more info. The Firearms Radio Network will have a booth there with several personalities out there, and also Patriot Patch will have a booth there. Designer Ryan Cross will be out there. So yeah, hope to see you there. They're going to have machine gun range, a separate silencer range. So if you're driving distance of Monroeton, PA, if you're anywhere on the East Coast there and you can drive out to northeast Pennsylvania. Really hope to see you out there. They're going to have where you can shoot, I think, shoot pistol from a zip line, something like that, something crazy. Where you can, like, they put you on this contraption and spin you upside down so you can shoot upside down and stuff like that. So, bunch of crazy stuff. Looking forward to it. We're going to have some deals there at Patriot Patch. But yeah, that should be a lot of fun. Patriot Patch helps make this episode possible. Check out our patriotic 4-pack of patches. We have the Bennington flag, the Gadsden flag, the Gonzales flag, and the Confederate flag, all in a 4-pack there. PatriotPatch.co. Also check out Ryan Cross Hunter Design if you need any kind of website work, any kind of website redesign, any kind of graphic design, any kind of design at all. Check out hunterofdesign.com. He's pro Second Amendment. If you have any kind of business that is in the firearms industry, he can totally rock your world with great graphics design. hunterofdesign.com. So remember to subscribe to us in iTunes, leave us a review there. Please consider joining the NRA and Second Amendment Foundation. And don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows on the Firearms Radio Network, especially Ryan Machad's Handgun Radio Show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
What episode are you up to over there?
I want to say 123 or 124. The last one we posted was with Hickok 45, which was a really fun episode, almost 2 hours long.
Wow.
So if you want to go check that out. And then the next one that's posting will be with Weird Beard talking about guns in TV shows.
Very cool. I just recorded the 100th episode of the Guns of Hollywood podcast. Those guys invited me on. That was a lot of fun.
Excellent. I was like, oh man, I got to do a movie show. And I was like, wait a minute, we have the Guns of Hollywood. I said, how about TV? We could do TV.
Very cool. Well, that's about wraps up the show. Like I said, Ryan's going to be releasing a show here in a week or so after this one comes out, a bonus episode that was already pre-recorded, and then after that we're going to launch into the reboot with episode 201. So look forward to seeing you guys live on YouTube via the Hangouts. Well, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate all the hard work you put in.
It has been a pleasure. I've had a great time. Thank you for letting me do it.
Well, that's a wrap, and we'll see you. I'll see you in a couple weeks here.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.